Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross. I am blessed, honored, and slightly amused to be here with Mike Dellenbach, Mike Dellenbach from CDS Moving Equipment. Mike, how you doing?
You know, Ben, I can't complain, man. Almost slipped out there again, but you got the CDS right. Applause to you, good sir.
It took me that last consonant takes like a 30-second. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And you want to say CDC, but no, that's a different guy. But Mike, you're here. I'm so happy. You're vaccinated. We were laughing backstage about, what does the world look like? Every day we get more information. Can we go somewhere? Can we not? Do we wear our masks? Do we not wear our masks? Are the Yankees healthy? Are they not? We just don't know. It's a really interesting world. But we're here to talk about shortages. We're here to talk about moving and relocation. Mike, as people come in right now, I want to know where in the world everyone is right now. So as you're coming in, as you're watching this, you're probably like, what the heck are these guys talking about? How come Ben can't spell CDC right? What's going on out here? Get in the comments. Let me know where you're at, what you're doing. Shout your company out. We got people popping in here. As people are coming in right now, Mike, give people an overview of what you do.
So what I am is I'm a regional sales manager for CDS Moving Equipment. What CDS does, we're a manufacturer and a wholesaler of moving equipment, consumable products, packing material, corrugated, lumber, a missing commodity from many ingredient lists nowadays. So we do a little bit of everything, and like everybody else, everything we touch has been affected by COVID in so many ways.
Yeah, seriously. So we're reading the news. People are coming in. This is great. I want to hear about we're going to talk about shortages. We're going to talk about what people can expect right now. What do we see in the future happening? What is the impact to relocation? How are we going to have to act differently and live differently and plan differently going into the future? I would love to hear your thoughts out there. If you've got questions, we've got people checking in from all over the world here. This is amazing. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Tim Quirk, a huge hashtag Western New York sunny hello to Mike and Ben. What's up, Timmy? Maury Stevens Jr. Now I got to buy some boxes, huh?
Hey, you know what? We share a birthday. Happy birthday, Maury. We just had birthdays on Saturday.
It was your birthday. My son's birthday was on Sunday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, I turned 45, man, on Saturday.
Yeah, you and him are like, yeah, that's great. Well, you don't look a day over 44, man. You look great.
Thanks, man. I'll take it.
No, you do. You look great. That Masters shirt's aging you just a touch, but you look good.
It's all right. I'll take it.
No, you look good. Maury Stevens, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well up there in Sag Nasty. Stacy Huff, hi, Ben and Mike. Looking forward to starting this week with a good show. Stacy always raising the bar. Thank you, super producer Stacy. There. Valerie McKenzie, happy Monday. Deluxe Suites listening in from Houston. Very interested to hear what to say because these shortages are crazy.
They sure are.
They are. Valerie, I want to hear what you're seeing out there because you're on a different side of it in the corporate housing game. I think we're going to have Barb Hale from your firm, Deluxe Suites, on here to talk about corporate housing in a few days. So that'll be interesting. Let's see here before we hop in exactly what shortages we're seeing. I want to hear, if you're watching this right now, what shortages, if you're in other industries, what shortages are you seeing? What's going on from your perspective? Pa, we got Pa from Africa checking in. Hi, Ben and Mike. What's up, Pa? Hope you're doing well. Awesome. Sandra Clary, happy new week. I can't hear your Yankees for all my natitude. Oh my goodness, natitude. Dang, Sandra. Natitude. All right, okie dokie. Marietta, always great presentation, awesome subjects. Thank you, Marietta. Appreciate you very much. Georgia checking in. Hi, guys. Hey, Georgia. Art Delaney, sunny Syracuse. That's what's up. So, Mike, what shortages are you seeing out there?
Well, you name it, you see it. I mean, it's crazy to say.
Is it affecting everything, or is there anything that's not affected?
How about this? I mean, I'll start it this way. I don't know how many days we are away from chicken wings being market price, but I feel like if you can
That's like a
think
whole
of,
nother pandemic. When you
oh
start
my
charging
gosh,
market price chicken wings, market price like it's oysters or something, like
how is Raising Cane's going to survive the pandemic, man?
no. And football season's coming up too. I mean, like
Right?
this is a problem.
So, but in all seriousness, coming full circle here, we started really seeing some of the initial slowdown happen last really fall, we'll say it, because while summer was still summer season for a lot of us, um, it wasn't quite what most of us had hoped, but a lot of us were pretty optimistic for what the season this year 21 would bring.
Because
So
it didn't have that mega spike. It kind of had that more like kind of elevated kind of demand, but not like a spike. But did you see it continue into the fall and winter and not really come back down, or what was that demand pattern like?
that's a great question, actually. So to your point, I would say from our perspective anyway, the season seemed to last longer. So it wasn't one giant spike as much as it, like you were sharing a moment ago, it was a slow gradual climb, and then it did eventually plateau probably around September, October. And by
Okay.
then, usually we have crashed, but we
Right.
plateaued through the holiday, which we were very grateful for. We did have abnormally busy fall and winter season. Now, the spigot turned off after the new year, and we have essentially been waiting for that surge to come back. Now, that said, at the perfect time, as the surge started happening, we've started seeing shortages. So, answering your question as directly as I can, the first thing that we really saw changes in were pads. That's the thing everybody right now, besides lumber, pads is one of the main commodities moving in storage is really having trouble finding.
And explain pads. Explain pads to the uninitiated out there, because we've got a diverse group out there. Some people are in the relocation management space. Some people are in household goods. Some people are in immigration. So explain when you say pads. What do you mean?
So furniture pads, pad wrapping, essentially anything you would put around a piece of furniture, something you want to protect, whether it be in transit, on a rail car, in a trailer, something better than maybe a newsprint or a thinner paper pad. Not quite as nice a high thread count as a bled or a blanket or anything like that, but
So moving blankets, like those
moving
quilted,
blankets,
stitched moving
absolutely.
blankets. Yep. Okay. Yep. And just so everybody knows, basically you put cover every piece of furniture, in one of those. And that was so I never heard that, Mike. So you're saying that was the first thing you noticed a pinch on was moving pads?
Well, that was one of the first things we noticed, the pinch on the moving pads. And the real reason was not necessarily because manufacturing had slowed down, which it did. Um, it was more the shortage of the shipping containers from overseas.
Right,
Um,
because those are all China, like made in China, aren't they?
well, a good portion of them are. Um, and it's not even so much that they're manufactured in China as much as the cycle of inbound, outbound. Whatever they send to us, we're usually sending empties back, or we're sending it full with supplies, whether it be corrugated and things. So the
So it's
full
the
ebb and flow,
container imbalance because all the containers were over here at Port of Long Beach. We had nothing to send back. So you're saying the container imbalance was creating that. Okay.
that was the first thing that really made its appearance in regards to shortage. At least from our perspective, anyway.
What
We had
what
done a
about
pretty good. I'm
Oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
please,
I'm
please.
jumping all over here, but I got all these questions here because I also remember that we had a huge issue, and I think we may still. And if anybody knows, are there still a bunch of ships out there at the Port of Long Beach out at sea right now? Is there a big line of boats out there? If anybody has an article on that, throw it in the comments there. I love links there. So I mean, because that's the other thing, right? So if containers full of pads are coming this way from China, but they're getting stuck out there at sea and they can't get into Port of Long Beach or any of the Western ports. I mean, was that part of it as well?
That's a huge part of it. As we sit here talking right now, we, as CDS, currently have about 5 or 6 containers floating about 5 miles from where our office is. And no labor, no trucks, nobody to get them off. And I mean, that's ultimately one of the things that we've seen the biggest shortage of in the industry, and I know we'll eventually get to there. I don't want to jump ahead, but labor and drivers,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you almost just want to like get a tugboat going out there and just be like, "Hey, toss me my." That's my. It's like at the luggage way. That's my bag right there. Can you
That
just
one's mine right
toss it
there.
over? Yeah, yeah, exactly. This is really interesting. Valerie is commenting here. She says furniture vendors are unable to do new setups due to volume and lack of inventory. So we are having to do hotel stays until they can get in. Hotels are experiencing limited availability. Val, what kind of a backlog are you looking at? Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? She says hotels are experiencing limited availability. Apartment communities are limited inventory. It is crazy every summer, but this one is extra crazy. Basically, it is a chain reaction from top to bottom and circles back around. It was interesting. I was talking to Valerie's partner there at Deluxe, Barb Hale, who's going to be on it, and she was saying that on that same boat with all your pads is all their furniture, and there's furniture out there. All these furniture dealers and everything have furniture sitting out there, and it's actually getting moldy at sea. So you have also
Oh wow, I
upholstered
didn't even think
furniture and
about
things like that. Some of this product can't sit out there for that long. It's
That's a
bananas.
good point. As you say that, we are concerned a little bit about moisture issues when it comes to pads. So, not all of our imported commodities are necessarily vulnerable to moisture, but pads certainly being one of them, being porous and cotton material. Um, we already have, you make an omelet, you're going to break a few eggs. There's always a dozen or two that slips through under normal circumstances when they're not sitting on the water in a port for 4 to 6 weeks at a time. That'll be an interesting dynamic to measure as we
Yeah,
start getting
because
some of
what
that
happens?
back.
What happens when that container finally gets to the warehouse and you're like, sweet, all right, finally I could fulfill these mega pad orders that have been backing up on me, and you bust open the box and there's mold, and you're just like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me right now? Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Jeff Nadeau says, Mike, give my best to Mitch Snelson. He's a legend.
Hey, you know what? Kudos to Jeff. Thank you for shouting out Al. Al was our owner who
Rest in
passed
peace,
away October of 19.
Oh man. Cool, Jeff. Thank you for that. Jeff, you seeing any other shortages that are rearing their head out there? I'd love to know. Val says days, weeks, varies by markets, but any delay is an inconvenience for our guests, of course. So we just keep doing our best every day to be transparent and overly communicate. And that's interesting, Mike. And we're going to get into some of the other items that are, commodities that are being, they're seeing shortages. But it's interesting that as our society moves into an instant gratification, more and more instant gratification, more and more just-in-time logistics, and all these trends and on-demand culture that we have now, and then here we are with these shortages that are proliferating every aspect of our life, from toilet paper to furniture pads to furniture to gas. And it's just very interesting to me, and then how we're handling it.
No doubt. Well, and I mean, you think about things that were affecting industry segments that we may not have even considered, like the automobile industry. They can't, we've got automobile manufacturers shutting down plants because we don't have chips, because most standard cars, never mind the luxury vehicles, just most standard cars are trying to become smarter, connecting Bluetooth and giving a map on your touchscreen radio and things. It's amazing how much we hadn't possibly considered certain aspects of life that were going to be affected by the pandemic. And obviously nobody saw that coming. You do what you do. You make you make the best of a bad situation. But it's really interesting to see the facets of the pandemic that affected parts of life that we never even considered. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
really saw this shortage coming. I mean, if anything, they shut labor down, shut manufacturing down. But then think about it, Ben. I don't know about you, but we had a pretty normal summer last summer. People were back out. People got back to work. And then November came, and then the second scare came. People went away. That's truly when people were getting furloughed, laid off. So it really was kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah. No, I know. You're right, because a lot of people hung in there and they're like, no, we're not going to furlough anybody. We're going to weather the storm. And then when it became apparent that it wasn't going to be a 6-month problem and everything was going to be better on Labor Day, that's when people started making like, a second round of cuts, or in some cases the first round of cuts. I want to ask everybody out there, we're going to talk about a few more shortages we're seeing, but I want to ask everybody out there that's watching. So if you're watching this right now, put down the hot dog, get in the comments. I want to know, what's the shortage that's most impacting your life today? This could be your personal life. This could be your professional life. I want to know, because to Mike's point, they're impacting every aspect of our life right now. I'm going to leave this up here, but what's the shortage that's most impacting your life today? Mike, I'm going to ask you. I want 2 answers. I want a professional and I want a personal. What's the shortage that's most impacting your life today? Start with the personal, if you don't mind.
I like it. Okay. Let's see. What shortage is personally affecting me? I joked with the chicken wing one. That actually is probably a pretty good one. I mean, I've never met a wing I didn't like.
But can't you just pivot from bone in to boneless? Can't you go into strips and tenders and trick the mind?
100%. I mean, listen, look at me, man. I mean, I'm 100 pounds of walking, chewed bubble gum. I mean, I love chicken, man. It could be a wing, it could be a breast, it could be a thigh. Just give me chicken, man.
Yeah. Okay. So chicken wing shortage is the one that keeps you up at night. But what about professionally? What's the shortage that's most concerning or most impactful maybe for you?
I think honestly, to me, and I would say this is probably the most universal. Labor is the biggest problem right now.
So more so than product right now, labor is really what's getting you.
I have product and I have problem getting it to customers at certain aspects. And, this is where we're all in the same boat. We can, as salespeople, we can, be as transparent and open and honest and manage that relationship as much as possible. But at the end of the day, we still have deadlines to meet. And a relationship is nice, but it doesn't help you get that, that job completed. So it's never a good feeling for a salesperson to say, I've got your order. I've had it 2 weeks. It's sitting on a pallet in my warehouse. I don't have a truck or a driver to get it to you. And I don't think there's a more helpless feeling. If a container's out on water and my pads are coming, I get it. Like, that just is what it is. I mean, it seems to me like labor, drivers is a scenario that we can solve, and we're having a hell of a time.
Well, yeah, right. Because you can always point to the news about Long Beach or the container. You can always send somebody a link on that while your pads are sitting out there, and they're there and they're just not. But it seems more preventable when it's like a truck driver shortage. It's a little harder for people to understand that it's just that hard to hire people right now. It's less 100%. Intuitive, we'll say, That's so interesting. See, I totally did not think you were going to say that. I thought you were going to talk about a commodity or product, and you didn't. Let's see what other people said here. I want to know, what is the shortage that's most impacting your life today? I'd love to hear some personal ones too. What's the toilet paper of 2021? What is it? What's 2021's toilet paper these days? Maybe it's quilted moving blankets. I don't know. Let's see here. Georgia says lift vans. Yeah. These people came for the lift van drama for sure.
Yes, they did.
Vinny, my shortage is my family and friends. I miss everyone so much. Yeah, he's having his own manpower issue out there. Vinicius, love you, man. Sandra, lumber, lift fans in the short term. Interesting, Sandra. That's so interesting because, Sandra, you work on the kind of the software side and the solution side. It's interesting to hear that perspective. Let's see here. Art Delaney says professional labor. Top 3. It's a fine top 3. Personal. This is his personal. You ready for this one? No pontoon boats anywhere. Jeez. You can't find a pontoon boat to save your life because they're all out in the Port of Long Beach getting pads off of ships out there. No, they're not.
That's correct.
No, they're not.
Let me ask you,
yeah.
if I can turn the tables on you. So
Please.
You're in the middle of a move, or obviously you just moved. Let me say it correctly. So you moved the family across country during a pandemic. Mm-hmm. In a time you're trying to buy a home, you're getting everything squared away. So how is inventory down in Texas for you?
For houses?
Yeah, for housing. Did you have issues?
It's insane. Well, so I rented when I got here. So renting a house was probably better than buying a house, but they were both brutal, right? So we paid a fortune to rent a house. Not like Bay Area prices, but we paid up, but we were in a position to do that, so that was okay. But what happened was there was a lot of people putting applications in, so it was rough. What I'm really not looking forward to, well, kind of am looking forward to, but kind of dreading also, is when it's time to go buy a house, right? So we're going to be in this rental for another till February or Feb 2023. But in the meantime, the Dallas market's been hot and been growing for the last 20 years. But it's been on steroids the last year and a half. So what is the next year and a half going to do? I mean, sure. Are those houses going to be, is a $400,000 house going to be $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 in 2 years? I mean, that's what I'm scared about.
Sure.
And then when it is, am I buy it? Is it going to come down like 200 grand? You know what I mean? In the next 2 years, like that's what I'm more concerned about for me.
No,
and a lot of that's being driven by, and this is probably a really good segue actually, right? So a lot of that's being driven by a lack of housing, which is being driven by a lack of new construction, which is being driven by the price of steel, which is up like 50% this year, and the price of lumber, which is up 300%.
At least, if not more.
Holy smokes. What the heck, man? So how's that impacting? Yeah, go ahead.
We had a study here that, so we've been trying to spread as much information around as we can, as far as, just taking stuff from articles and sharing it for, just internally one another. And one of the things that came from Mitch Snelson, the guy previously shot out. On average, linerboard, I want to say, I got to pull up the stat, but
pull up the stat, and while you do that, I'm going to define linerboard for everybody. Okay?
Please do.
So linerboard is the corrugated cardboard, basically the bulk product, the sheets of the bulk product that is then folded and made into cardboard, I think.
Correct. No, you're right. I used the wrong term there. So I did find it. So it was board feet is what I was trying to get. So the average house generally in construction uses about 15,000 board feet. Back in 2019, lumber traded at about 381 feet per 1,000 board feet. And now it's up over $1,200 per board foot. So I mean,
and I'm sorry, this is like plywood, basically.
This is basically 2x4s for framing, things like that.
Okay.
Essentially the things that you would use to put up the walls and things like that to to frame out a home on top of the foundation that you would pour, for those areas that like mine that has them. But I mean, just that stat alone, you're talking just lumber, not any other commodities that go into that home. I mean, that alone increased at $25,000 per house on new construction. So, wow. I mean, that one thing alone is staggering. And then you tie that into the things that we do, the commodities, the lift fans. We've seen that as a hot button many times. We joked prior to the show going live backstage, I could sell you a lift fan 3 years ago for $275. Right now, that same lift fan's $550. and
Yeah.
it's going to be a different price tomorrow. So like, I've never been in a situation as a salesperson where I've had to go and quote a large quote. Usually I could say, hey, that's good 30, 45 days. I'll check back with you. Let me know when you've made a
Right.
choice.
No pressure. Call me when you need me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm your guy. Right. That was the pitch.
Exactly.
Right. And now it's like, I got a guy on the phone. He's got 3 boxes. How many you need? Take it or leave it. First come, first serve.
It's insane. It's crazy. And even on top of that, like I've had quotes. I quoted Monday. I checked back the following Monday. Hey, that price is no good anymore. I'm sorry. Like I got cleaned out and now it's 2 more weeks and my cost went up. Like,
And how are
it's
your
insane.
customers, how are your clients responding to that also?
Initially it was a challenge for sure. I mean, while we all have some semblance of, we know what's going on. I mean, as a society, we know the world that's going on around us. But when you're in the weeds, it feels very lonely. All you're trying to do is get that problem solved. So at first, it definitely presented some challenges. But as we've gone through the pandemic and as other vendors have told them no, hey, even fuel, we've seen the Southeast. I mean, diesel, unleaded. I mean, when would we have thought? I mean, since 1970, you know, before there was another fuel crisis. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, and that's due, and what's interesting is these are all due to different factors, right? Like that fuel situation was due to the pipeline getting hijacked, right? So you've
Well, and
got
they also blamed
pipelines
it
get,
on Texas too for the winter storm because they said manufacturing
oh,
slowed down
the
during the storm.
refinery was down. That's right. Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, so you got weather causing issues, you got, hackers causing issues, you got pandemic, you got labor shortages. We haven't even talked about inflation, which is driving up the
Oh,
price of
yeah.
everything, right? So it's like, so my question, like, so when you're, working on these hot commodities like lift fans, and just define for people what a lift fan is, because we're throwing that around like it's a known term. Make sure everybody knows what that is.
Fair enough. So they're also referred to as type 2 containers. A lift fan, though, is essentially is an international shipping container. Typically, you'll hold about 1,000 pounds. They're roughly 7 feet tall, 7 feet long. I'm giving you vault size, but they're comparable.
Yeah.
192 cubes. You nail them together. It's lumber. It's got to be heat treated. Little side effect they found in the 80s when they didn't do that. But I don't know how I'd feel if I moved to Bangladesh and woke up with beetles in my
Yeah.
personal belongings.
Yeah.
But all things being equal, standard shipping container for international, overseas, and for military.
So this is a big wooden box that several people could fit inside of, to give you an idea of the size of it, and it ships about 1,000 pounds of household goods, maybe a little more, and these are really the standard. So you sell little boxes like moving boxes, but then you sell the big
Sure,
box, right?
we
And that's
do.
kind of the standard for smaller shipments, what we call less than container size, less than container load shipments, right? And what's interesting, so people out there that are watching this are saying, okay, that's great, but I don't do any global international shipping. What's that got to do with me? What you need to know is that all of your small shipment providers are using these lift vans domestically within the U.S., probably domestically within other countries in the world as well, because there's such a shortage of loose load trucker capacity, truckers that are driving, tractor trailers that can just stick some sofas on the back end, of their truck. So they're all putting these things in lift vans, right? They're putting all these small shipments in lift vans. And a small shipment might use one, it might use 5 of these. The small shipment threshold has also been increasing over the past few years, right? It used to be a small shipment was like 1,000, 2,000 pounds, and it was like 3 or 4. And then the major van lines started sending out memos starting a few years ago saying, hey, now anything under 6,000 pounds is going to get crated during the summertime, during peak season, May 5th, Memorial Day to Labor Day or whatever. And so now you're shoving everything 6,000 pounds and under into these lumber boxes, these lift vans. And oh, by the way, shipment demographics, there's more people moving that have smaller shipments. And so now there's this crunch. And so Mike over here, it sounds like you're in a position where you're tracking down these lift fans from your suppliers, and you got like 2 telephones working. I mean, I don't even know if that's how business is done anymore. Probably not, right? You probably have 2 emails going. And I'm over here like get those Bangladeshi beetles. I need the one without it,
I'm sending pigeon carriers, man. Isn't that how people do it nowadays?
But I feel like your client's probably saying to you, like, Mike, are you sticking it to me? Because every time I call you, the price goes up $100. Like, is there some of that sentiment out there?
Yeah, of course there is. Of course. I mean, in any scenario where somebody feels like they're getting wronged, or we see scenarios of hyperinflation, which this certainly would qualify. Part of that scenario is, you've got the lumber being taken away to build homes. You've got the lumber being taken away to build these containers. The other part of it too. So you mentioned, the person who's like, you know what, I don't do military, I don't do international. This doesn't pertain to me. But guess what? You probably do storage. And if all the wood's being used for those containers, your vaults, guess what? They're also spiking too. I mean, again, that's a perfect example. Vaults were $350 4 years ago. They're up over $600. I mean, I would not be surprised if we cross the $700 mark this summer for vaults.
Wow.
It's insane.
And a vault is basically a storage unit that's basically the same size as a lift fan, and it sits in your warehouse. It's not moved, but it's basically they stack them up 3 or 4 high and create storage cubes within their warehouse using these what are called vaults. Also made out of the same lumber materials. So this is really fascinating. So now you're over here selling lift fans for $550. Price isn't good for more than a week. So you're gonna get all these emails. Hey, you got lift fans for $550? But you're over here selling these lift fans for a rapidly escalating price, which is only going to probably get worse in the next month or two. My next question though is, what do we think that's going to do to the cost of shipping the household goods? If it's costing me $550 just to containerize 1,000 pounds of that 3,000 pound shipment, and I need 3 of those, and all these moves are like budget moves too. They're all like, hey, I got
of course,
trying to do this on the cheap, And I mean, and here's the thing too, Mike. Here's the rub, because I was a sales guy on the moving side. All these contracts are pre-negotiated.
Yep.
So people are locked into certain discount levels or whatever, and there's not a lot of flexibility in what you can charge.
That's
so
correct.
If my cost of these cartons and these pads that I can't get my hands on and all the other stuff, we're going to talk about boxes too, is going up, I mean, what choice do I have? Am I not doing the business anymore? Am I saying can't afford to service the move, even if I have the labor? Are you hearing anything like that?
Well, not per se, because the industry has made a pivot a few years ago, and we were one of the first to do so. So when we started noticing, I don't want to say a shortage in lumber a few years ago, because that didn't necessarily exist, although it was getting expensive. What we did definitely hear a big push from our folks was, I got to find a way to make these shipments more cost effective. I've got to make them cheaper. I've got to get them across the country cheaper. So one of the first things that we did was we created the Easy Truck Pack. So it's a corrugated lift fan. Now that doesn't help you on the international side, but it does help.
Why not?
And for military, because it is a corrugated container. And if you're going to ship it internationally, odds are good it's going to encounter some elements. Cardboard and water don't mix well, no matter how much plastic you wrap around the shipment on the inside. It's just not going to hold up. And on top of it too, you can't double stack these, because again, while you are cubing them out, it is still a corrugated container, and it is somebody's still personal belongings. There is a pallet on the bottom of it as well too. So if you went to double stack, it's not going to always work well.
But these are made out of a I think triple layered cardboard, right? Isn't that the deal?
You are correct.
So they're made out of 3 layers of cardboard, so they're super strong.
Correct.
Not totally as durable, but pretty close, and it still allows you to ship them domestic US, you know, on a freight trailer or whatever, on a rail car or whatever. So I mean that's good. So okay, so continue what you were saying.
So we've gotten that option available to you. We have started receiving them in back in March.
Okay.
Not as frequently as we were hoping. That's another thing, but you know, all things being equal, we've still got good stock. You mentioned boxes. Actually, we've been pretty fortunate in that regard. We were concerned for a while that we had heard some rumblings of a shortage of, believe it or not, glue that actually holds the boxes together, which could potentially create a shortage. So far, that's been remedied, and we haven't heard anything in that regard. But tape could start disappearing on you here this summer.
Is tape the new toilet paper?
Tape is the new toilet paper.
You heard it here first, everybody.
So yeah, breaking news here. We've heard many of our competitors and industry friends alike saying that tape is becoming a little bit more hard to find. And, you know, we originally thought, well, if it's the box glue, it's got to be the same thing on the tape side. And that wasn't even it. So in our industry, typically we standardize on a hot melt. So for those laymen, basically hot melt tape has an element of rubber in it. So it is mostly plastic, but as you know, you've probably packed before, Ben, you pop the tape, you don't need a box cutter, you just pop it, tape the box, and away it goes. Well, the main key ingredient to a hot melt tape is rubber. Sorry, Drew.
Drew's like, no, not my tape.
So
saying, no, not tape for toilet paper. I don't know, Drew. You gotta. Are you seeing the tape pinch or the tape pull, as it may be? You know, but go ahead.
Well, we haven't turned orders away, and we don't intend to. We are certainly keeping a close eye on the tape situation, as many of our competitors are. We're not alone. So, you know, it's funny being a vendor, being on here talking about shortages and sharing our vulnerabilities. The good news is there's safety in numbers. We're not alone.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's not a you problem. It's not you. It's the tape people. Blame the rubber industries. So that's super interesting. So I want to ask. So let me ask you about the other one because you're right. Because cardboard boxes was one of the things that I've actually been beating this drum for several years here. As we look at the what I call the Amazon effect, right? As we look at the e-commerce effect and how everything is coming to my house in a cardboard box. It used to be once every 4 years that my house would look like an Amazon fulfillment center, and now it's every Sunday night. I'm in there breaking down boxes with a box cutter. You know, like I you know what I mean? I went from having one recycling bin and one garbage bin. And now I need 2 recycling bins and 1 garbage bin. I'm probably putting 2 times more recyclables out, you know, between all the wine bottles and the Amazon boxes. And there's probably a correlation between the wine bottles and Amazon boxes.
We're in a judgment-free zone here. It's okay.
Yeah, and so, so point being is, I thought for sure you're going to say, Ben, there's a cardboard shortage right now. You know, I had heard about the price increases of cardboard over the last, you know, probably 10 years. And I was for sure thinking that. Are you seeing that, Mike?
Shortage? The short answer I'll say is no. Now, the longer, more convoluted answer is the corrugators are being a little fickle. You know, so I've been in the industry 18 years this year. When I started with CDS back in 2003, you could essentially fall out of a moving vehicle and find any number of paper mills and corrugated plants, whether they were actually doing both or they were just a converter. You had options. There have been so much mergers and acquisitions from then to now. There's really a handful of people that you could go to even on a regional, if not national level, for packing material and for corrugated. So to your point, you can have CDS moving equipment as a customer, and we're a significant volume, but we're not Jeff Bezos. So we've had to come back to the negotiating table a little bit, and we don't always win. Where before we had a little bit more leverage. Kudos to Jeff Bezos.
Well, does the consolidation through mergers and acquisitions make the supply chain more vulnerable? It's something we talk about with M&A and in the relocation side all the time. We talk about on the moving side as well. But I haven't really thought about it from a I've been using the word commodities. I'm not sure if that's appropriate or not. But when I think about the products that go into what we produce, I never really thought about how the consolidation of our suppliers might actually create a lot of vulnerabilities.
100%. I mean, if anything, it allows those same manufacturers, it gives them all the leverage. I mean, you can create a shortage when there isn't. And, we've always, there's no collusion in this world. But I mean, if somebody shuts down a mill and gets a price raised, a lot of things in business are done through symmetry and osmosis. Hey, if he did that, we can do that. A lot of that's going on. One of the ways to help keep an eye on that, third Thursday of every month is the pulp and paper publication. So you can keep an eye on those sorts of things. You can register to get them. It is a paid.
Sounds like a heck of a read, the pulp and paper publication. That sounds.
Oh, it's definitely nighttime reading, shall you say? But it's important. I mean, it's something we have to monitor so we know what the tonnage on the cost of tonnage of liner board and those things are. So, it's just an extra way to help educate yourself and see what trends are ahead and what has happened behind, and kind of make your forecast accordingly.
Well, so let's talk about, it's not all doom and gloom. Let's talk about what the opportunities are, and let's talk about what the trends are, and let's talk about what the alternatives are. So we have this situation. Are some of these short-term or some of these long-term trends? And what are some of the alternatives?
I'm pretty optimistic they're all short-term trends. Now, that I guess is going to be subject to, what everybody's interpretation of short-term is. I mean, realistically, a lot of the folks that we're talking to on the manufacturing side, whether it be domestic or overseas, are pretty optimistic that supply chain will eventually catch up. Probably looking at more of like a 12 to 18 month window than a 6 to 12 month. I would hope that would also slow inflation down a little bit as well, too. I mean, these $700 for a vault's just insane. And I'm overinflating it a little bit, but last week on Thursday, we were $650. So
you're just giving people a price that might be good for a week, is what you're doing.
Maybe. I don't know. It could be bad right now for all I know, But as far as options go, there definitely are. We talked about one earlier on the lift van side. We've got, the easy truck pack. So that's a good way to help alleviate some of that overflow, at least on the domestic side. As far as straps goes, all of ours are domestic. So some of the other shortages that we've seen, or that some other folks have seen in the industry, we haven't seen. Four-wheel dollies have not been a problem for us. As I mentioned, just straps. Some equipment has hand trucks and appliance dollies have gone away, but here's the good news. I haven't seen a mover use an appliance dolly in a long time. They look good in a belly box, but they like to have it. And then the hand trucks are still available. They have escalated in price quite a bit, though. That they have definitely fallen victim to the inflation.
Now, what is that? So, and for people that don't know, hand trucks are basically your standard dolly. What we
standard box dolly, something that you would see in the back of a warehouse. The ones that our movers use, our owner operators, definitely use a more polished, whether it be Magline or BP manufacturing, a lot more polished. So it's a nice presentation for the customer when they step inside.
What is driving the dolly difficulty?
any number of things. I mean, metals, of course. I mean, they're all aluminum, except for on the appliance dolly side. So the appliance dolly, to your point, that's more for refrigerators and things like that, deep freezers. A lot of those are steel and magnesium. The hand trucks are aluminum, so they can be a little bit more light and more maneuverable. And again, all of those are commodities that are, in short supply. We're not hearing it as much. They're still available, but it's certainly the prices are inflating pretty dramatically.
Interesting. I'd love to hear your comments and questions out there. I'd love to know, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you thinking? Please let us know. Is there anything that we can do, Mike, what advice would you give to people out there as far as how to plan and adapt to these forces?
It's tough right
besides
now.
Besides calling CDS early and often.
No, well, of course. I mean, thank you for the plug, Ben. I appreciate it. It's tough to get out in front of anything right now because we're already into May. Memorial Day is 2 weeks away, and we're already neck deep. So as far as being proactive, I don't know that there's much to be proactive in. That said, the best prepare and plan is the best way. And the one thing I would say too, oftentimes early in this pandemic, I'll point with the thumb here and say, maybe I haven't done a good job as far as asking folks and being proactive. Hey, what are you going to be ready for? What are you looking to get done this season so we could bring it into house? So from that perspective, you want to try and communicate with your vendor as much as possible. We're not going to always have good answers for you right now. Please don't shoot the messenger. At this point, we're doing the best that we possibly can with a bad situation, and it's all of us are in this boat together. I mean, whether it's you trying to find DEF fuel for your trucks, or you're trying to find diesel, or even labor to pack that move, we're all in the same boat right now. So, the best thing I would say is try to plan as best you can and communicate with your vendors the needs that you're going to have, so we can try and get ahead of it for you. So when the job comes, you're ready.
I think that's a great point. I think there's people out there that are watching this right now. And I think what I would say to them is you need to get those orders in as quick as possible. Everybody's talking about they're sitting on so much pent up demand. Really try to find ways to communicate that down the supply chain. Because once you send it to your mover, they're not necessarily going to be sitting on the equipment and the boxes and the dollies and the lift fans to actually take care of that shipment, right? Or the labor. I mean, it might take a month to hire the people and train the people that they're going to need. How long does it take, Mike, if I called you right now and said I need a bunch of those corrugated lift fans at my warehouse? I mean, what's the turnaround time on that?
Well, the good news is right now we've got those all over the house or all over the country. So we can get you, generally speaking, within 24 to 48 hours on the truck packs, corrugated truck packs.
Okay, so 48 hours on the truck packs, which I can use domestically. What about for the international lift fans?
So we have right now on lift fans, I'm out in Chicago. We have a PO due in here in the next week. We've got fingers crossed. I'm not holding my breath. So in certain aspects, commodities, I'm not
doing this to put you on the spot. I mean, no. I'm sorry, but I mean, the point is, if people are sitting on international moves and you think you're waiting for the border to open up to authorize that shipment, and then it's like, all right, ready, set, go. Like, it may not be go. People need to understand that. Okay, you need to let us know, because Mike's over here hoping that PO comes through, and I'm sure he's got more people, wanting those lift fans that are on that lift fan PO. So that means if I put in a lift fan order right now, I'm probably not getting this PO. I'm probably getting the next PO. So my whole point in saying that is to say to all the people out there that are initiating orders, my RMC friends, my corporate folks out there, anybody out there, the forwarders even, right? It's like, hey, we need some advanced notice out here at the agent level, because it's going to take us week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks sometimes to get the equipment to service the moves, not to mention the labor, which is a whole nother ball of wax. So yeah, plan ahead. Are there any cool alternatives out there? You mentioned the truck pack, which is pretty neat. Are there any alternatives to say like the pads, or even, I mean, are you selling any of those plastic cartons, or are there any types of new and innovative things that we need to be thinking about, or maybe you'd like to see developed?
That's a great question. I didn't necessarily think about it from. So as far as new and shiny stuff, that's one thing CDS usually prides itself on, and right now we don't, which is surprising for us. Usually we've got a new carrot introduced to the industry each year. Sorry, guys.
But I mean,
We'll be
these
better
things are
next
coming
year.
out. I mean, some of this is coming out of nowhere with this demand, with these shortages, like pads and stuff, right? So it always helps
100%.
when things are in gradually increasing demand, and then you're like, okay, this is going to be a problem, and a worse and worse problem for years, and we can get ahead of it with some R&D. When these things just pop out of nowhere, like, hey, who's got the next greatest toilet paper? Like, nobody saw that coming, right? Like,
Right.
well, I don't know. You know what I mean? What are we going to do, right? So no, that's fair. That's fair.
No,
Mike,
it's tough because it's tough to know where the industry is going to go or what they want. I often find us reactionary, and then we're learning, what we did last season to get it right next season.
yeah,
So I feel like the pandemic kind of delayed that process for all of us, and where most of us were really optimistic about a really good season. We started seeing it shake loose a little early. We saw the season go a little long, and now supply chain. So
right when you're like, sweet, we got some orders. Wait, what do you mean we don't have product? What do you mean the boats aren't here? What do you mean the guys aren't ready to get ready to unload it? This is great. Speaking of optimism, speaking of positivity, you're always a super positive guy, Mike. Every time we hang out, I remember last time we were hanging out was, I want to say it was like Palm Springs or something. I don't know if that's right or not, but it was a lot of fun. I remember that part. You're always a super positive guy. You got a top five today. You got a top five, Mike?
I do got a top five.
Nice. What's your top
So,
five, Mike?
well, I felt like it would be very topical because one of the things that, at least for us in our household, throughout the pandemic, we've been pretty stressed. We've been, overworked. My wife, God bless her, I mean, she's putting in attorney hours. Um, so, what are we doing to help each other and promote positivity and create good energy? So that's my top five. I wanted to put out a few good ways and to create some good energy and promote positivity.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, let's do it. Number five.
Number five, man, smile and laugh more with others. Where's my ellipses, man? There's no dot, dot, dot.
What do you mean? Smile and laugh with others. Give me an example.
Smile and laugh with others more, just enjoy each other more. But the dot, dot, dot I put in there was tell a fart joke. Who doesn't love a good fart joke, man? I mean, come on. Like, everybody's got flatulence. I mean, why not
Um,
laugh at yourself a little bit,
oh,
right?
this is great. This is great. Sandra Clary is like, I love this top five already, even before seeing any of them. Sandra, thoughts after number five? Leave it. Drew Phillips, top five. Yeah, baby. Drew Phillips is here for the top five. He's always here for the top five. Mike Falia, gotta love a positive top five for sure. Awesome. This is great, Jeff.
Well,
Life is very short. Enjoy your time. Very cool.
so my number
Fart joke.
four, I got a little bit
Great.
more serious.
Number
Wanted to be the
four.
attention grabber. Yeah, regularly perform small acts of kindness. Even if it's just holding a door open for somebody behind you, or paying for that cup of coffee for the person behind you, or if you regularly do these things, I find, I just like feeling good about putting good out in the world, and it is something that I firmly believe in. I used to carry and harbor a lot of anger, and it's gotten taken a lot of work to get to this level of happy and chubby. So, you know, I work hard to maintain it, you know?
How'd you get over that anger you used to carry with you? Like,
Oh gosh. You know, I've been an athlete my whole life, so a lot of it's physical. I was a wrestler in football, so I like hitting things. As I'm 45, I find less things to hit. So I find myself being I'm a yogi. I meditate more. I practice yoga. I try to be still and slow my mind and be in the moment a little bit more. That doesn't mean I don't prepare and plan and look ahead. But I just try to enjoy the moment more a little bit.
that's cool.
So that's just me.
Cool. Like it. Jeff says kindness when no one is looking. Karma. Sandra gave you a new nickname. She's renamed you ... Dellenbach.
I like it.
That actually has a ring to it, Sandra. ... Dellenbach. Sandra, you've been redeemed. I love it. Fantastic. Number 3.
Be appreciative. Show gratitude. I mean, I can't tell you. Listen, I'm very fortunate to live in the area that I live. I live just outside of Naperville, Illinois. And it's a great blend of people. It's one of the things that I enjoy the most. One of the things that I miss the most are simple please and thank you, excuse me from some folks. That's something that simple. Just show a little gratitude, be appreciative. You know, I mean, we're all in this together. It's easy to forget that the person sitting across the table from you is also a person, because you're so wrapped up in your own mind and your own concerns. Just be appreciative that you're here. Show a little bit of gratitude. I think it's a great way to go through life.
Yeah, 100%. You know, that's something I always have to remind myself too, is I never feel like I'm saying thank you enough. Like, that's a good reminder. I appreciate that. Number 2.
Give compliments, man. Hey, Ben, you look sharp today, man. You look great.
Thanks.
You
too, Mike. Looking good.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You never know just how bad a day a person is having. You know, you just never knew, you know, whether it's that person who steals your parking space, or, you know, maybe they need to get to the emergency room a little bit quicker than you do. You know, I mean, whatever the case may be, the bottom line is, you know, maybe they drove a nice car. Hey, nice car, instead of flipping the bird. You know, hey, flip that perspective.
Nice car.
Bit, you know. But it's easy to forget. You know, we're all people, man. Everybody needs a pat on the back every once in a while. Be the person who gives one.
That's great. Number 1.
Listen, man. Listen, I suffer from this disease. I'm a salesperson, so, you know, I talk a lot, but it's a lot easier to talk if you listen to just what the person's saying. You gain a lot much more perspective. You know, again, to go back to the earlier point, we just forget that we're all people. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to do the best we can to put our one foot in front of the other and get through the day. And you know what? We all have obstacles throughout the day. And you know what? Maybe somebody just needs an ear. They don't need your advice. They just want to vent. Just listen.
You know, you're so right. I remember this from, gosh, this was 2006. My wife was giving me something about her, some friends of hers at work or whatever, and I started listening to it, and I'm like, well, you know, you really ought to try to tell her this or ask her that or whatever. And she's like, I don't care. I don't need your advice. I just want you to be a witness to my emotions. And this has been a recurring thing. Just be a witness to my emotions. So when we're about to tell each other something and we don't want to hear the other person's opinion about it, like, listen, I just need you to be a witness to my emotions right now. This is what happened. Yeah, it's really great. So, you know, you're out here, you know, talking about compliments. Drew Phillips listened to you. He said, I do love that Masters polo, Mike. Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Like it. Mike Falia, everybody's going through something. A quick smile, hello, or compliment could change their day, and yours too. That's right. And yours too, Mike. Great point. Let's see. Jeff, of course, has to hop on the band. Mike, I can tell by your rental background that you're having a bad day. I hope it gets better. That is the backhanded compliment.
You know what? He's not wrong. It's all right. I'll take it.
Hope it gets better. Mike Falia, my first boss, used to say, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk. Awesome.
That was my drill sergeant, for sure.
Wow. Awesome. This has been great, Mike. I got to ask you, you want to leave us with one kind of closing thought?
You know, I'll just piggyback off my top 5. I just think like we need to slow down right now. Everybody's so consumed about a vaccine and judging someone if they're wearing a mask and putting out a fire or whatever the topical situation, divisive situation of the day is. Let's just remember that right now there's a lot of agendas being pushed right now. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all people and we all have to live together and we all should try to make each other's lives better versus more miserable. Because at the end of the day, guess what? Everything comes back full circle. And I do firmly believe that whatever energy you put out comes back to you. So let's just try to be better people to each other. That's all.
I love it. Be kind. That's great. Mike, that's wonderful. Everybody who's out there, thank you so much for all the comments, all the positivity. That's wonderful. The show is always better when you're here. Hit that like button. Appreciate you. Give Mike a round of applause. Hit that green little round of applause button. Give him that virtual LinkedIn love there. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow, we've got Robert Horsley, the executive director from Fragaman on. Same time, we're going to be talking about immigration and global mobility on the macro scale. It's going to be great. Mike, thanks again. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you.
Ben, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you, my friend, very much. Continued success.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.